You see someone with chronic illness and they're smiling, they're dressed, they're functioning, but you think they're fine because you can see them all dressed up and looking nice. But what you don't see are the 3 hours it took to get dressed, the pain they're masking, the internal negotiation about whether they have enough energy to make it through the day. You can't also see the grief they are carrying for a life they used to live. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the silent, unseen struggles of chronic condition. The ones no one talks about, the ones that don't show up in symptoms list. Because chronic illness is so much more than just being sick. Let us go. Welcome to InspireAbility. This is where we talk about the real, messy, unseen part of living with chronic conditions. I am Ruby, and if you've ever felt misunderstood, invisible, or like people don't get what you're going through, this video is for you. We're going beyond the visible symptoms today. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's talk about what chronic illness actually looks like behind closed doors. Now, let's start off with what people don't understand about chronic illnesses. When you say I have, and you probably mention sickle cell, you probably mention arthritis, anything you're going through, whatever your chronic illness is, people would Google your condition, and obviously they read the symptoms. Symptoms like, oh, fatigue, pain, brain fog, and they think they get it. They really do think they understand it. But do they really? Because the symptoms lists don't tell them some huge things, and those that are the invisible symptoms. So what they see, someone's sitting down and looking cool and calm and collected. But what they do not see is that you've been standing for 3 minutes and your body is screaming at you for having done that. They see someone canceling plans, especially when they've gone overboard to make those arrangements. What they don't see is the 3-day crash that would follow if you went ahead with that plan. So they see someone scrolling their phone. What they did not see is that this person could not focus enough to read, so they are mindlessly scrolling to feel less alone. The constant internal decision that people with chronic condition have to make is crucial to discuss now, because every single action requires calculation. If I shower this morning, will I have enough energy to make breakfast or later lunch and dinner for the family? If I go to this event, will I crash for 3 days? If I use my good hours on work, will I have anything left for my family? This is called the spoon theory. So you start each day with limited spoons, and the spoon represents energy units. Each activity you do costs spoons. So you have to be very careful how you spend your spoon. And once you're out, you're out. You can't just push through. Healthy people don't think about this. They shower, walk, socialize, cook, clean, all in one day without calculating energy. They just move with the flow, get to do what they need to do, and they're happy and about. For someone with chronic condition, probably you listening to me now, you're doing advanced mathematics just to survive. You have to calculate everything in advance. And there's an emotional weight to this. It's hugely emotionally demanding to have to run these calculations in your head consistently, day in, day out. And what you don't see is the grief of the life that's been lost, the old life that that person with chronic condition would never have again. You don't see the anxiety of the unpredictability. that they're having to live on a day-to-day basis. The uncertainty of the next 3 hours of the next day. Will I be okay tomorrow? The depression that comes with chronic pain, the fear of being a burden, the loneliness of living in a body no one else understands. The symptoms list says fatigue and pain, or whatever it is. It doesn't say profound loss of identity. It doesn't say constant anxiety. It doesn't say deep isolation. But these are real struggles that people with chronic conditions have to undergo on a day-to-day basis. Now, let's talk about how chronic illnesses destroy your social life completely. First thing is the friendship drain. And here's what happens. There are phases to this. Phase one, that's when you get the diagnosis. Or everybody will rally around you. They'll bring meals around. They'll text you constantly. They're so supportive, seeing how you're doing, just being there, amazing, and supporting you through the process. But by phase two, we're talking maybe a few months later, and you're still sick. The novelty is completely worn out. The texts have become less frequent. No more visits from anybody. People remember you maybe once in 2 months because they've moved on with their lives, and rightfully so. Then you move on to phase three. This is where years have passed. You've cancelled so many plans that they stop inviting you to anything. Before you realize it, you've drifted apart from the people you were very, very close to. And suddenly, very suddenly, you look around you and you realize you're all alone. Not because these people are bad people. In fact, they probably really do care for you. But because they don't know what to say anymore. They are tired of always hearing about you being sick and you not being able to meet with expectations and plans. And they've moved on with their lives. They have lives as well. And frankly, some people don't want to hear about illness all of the time. And you are a sort of reminder of life fragility. And that's so uncomfortable for a lot of people. But you are left thinking, was I only valuable when I could show up? When I was consistently there? Was that what my value was to these people? Then let's talk about the next thing. The unsolicited advice. It keeps coming in packs consistently. Things along the lines of, oh, have you tried yoga? Oh, my aunt's cousin had that and she just ate more vegetables. Have you tried veggies? Or you should see my doctor, they're very good. Or my nephew's doctor was brilliant. Do you want to try them out? Have you tried just not thinking about it? Oh, you're too young to be this sick. But you don't really look sick though. So every unsolicited fix implies something. And examples of those implications are you haven't already tried everything. You're not doing enough. Your illness is your fault. If you just tried harder, you'll be better. People do mean well. They really do. But their help often feels like judgment. And you're left pondering over their comments long after they've made those comments. Unfortunately, those comments stay with you, having huge impacts on you psychologically. So let's talk about trying to work or study with chronic illness. That's a big one. So you need adjustments. But asking feels like admitting weakness. You fear being seen as less capable. You worry about being fired or failing. So you push through. But because you're pushing beyond your energy level, you crash harder. Your health deteriorates. You can't sustain it. Here's the catch 22. You're damned. If you ask for help, you'll be deemed as being difficult, as being attention seeking, oh, she wants the world to revolve around her. And you're also damned if you don't ask for help. You burn out and you can't function. You crash completely. So for people with chronic illnesses, there's no winning. Any way you tilt, people would have something to say about that decision. And if you can't work, you get comments like, oh, you're so young. What do you do all day? Must be nice staying at home, isn't it? I wish I could just rest all day. As if you've chosen this life. As if rest is a luxury for you and not a survival. Now let's talk about the identity crisis chronic illness creates. You begin to ask yourself, who am I now? Because before the chronic illness, you were probably the active friend, the hard worker, the reliable one, the person with big plans. But after the chronic illness, you can't even keep up. You are the sick one. And people begin to define you by your limitations. Your future looks like nothing at all like what you've planned. And you grieve. But the sad thing is you grieve alone because people don't understand why you have to grieve. You grieve that person you used to be, the life you thought you have, the career you can't pursue anymore, the career you had to let go of, the activities you can't do, the spontaneity you've lost. But the interesting thing is that this grief is complicated because you're still alive. So people don't recognize this as loss. Then the loss is ongoing. You lose a lot of things, more things than the symptoms are showing. And as the symptoms progress, you lose more as the days go by. Then there's no closure. Chronic often means forever. And you can't talk about it because people will say, at least you're alive. Oh, you should be thankful. It could be worse. Stay positive. If you're a believer, have more faith. So you grieve alone. You had plans. You had career goals. You had travel destinations. You had family milestones. You had retirement dreams. A chronic illness appears and says, no more. You don't have any of that. You mourn. You mourn a few things that you'll probably never see in your life. You mourn the wedding you can't plan because you don't know if you'll feel well enough for it to happen. You mourn the promotion you can't accept because you can't handle the hours. You mourn the trip you can't take because you can't be away from your medical team. You mourn the children you might not have because you can't handle pregnancy or parenting demands. These are real losses. But because they are future losses, people don't validate them. They will just make comments along the lines of, don't think about what you can't do. Focus on what you can do. But you are allowed, I tell you, you are allowed to grieve what you've lost. Even if it's a future you will never have, I give you the permission. You are allowed to grieve this. So what do you do now to find purpose when your identity is shattered, completely ripped out from your grip? You can't bounce back to where you were before. So you have to build someone new. So you have to discover new passions that fit your energy, new ways to contribute, new definitions of success, new communities. Who gets it? It's not about getting back to normal. It's about creating a new normal for you. And that is hard. It's hard work. especially when you have so many challenges due to your chronic illnesses. But it's very, very possible. Let's talk about one crucial bit that affects most people with chronic illnesses. Let's talk about money and logistics, because chronic illness is one thing I've realized very expensive venture. The financial drain. Medications are expensive, even with those that have good insurances. Some would have to pay for specialist appointments. Some treatments are not covered for free or by insurance, so out of pocket expenses. Then let's do adaptive equipment, mobility aid, assistive technology. Those things cost money, good money. Then there's the lost income. You have reduced hours or you can't work at all. You're spending more whilst you're earning less. All of these things are more expensive. You need them. So you have to find a way of getting them, but you're not earning enough to meet those needs because you can't work as you used to, or possibly you can't even work at all. And that is the chronic illness financial trap. It traps you. And for some people, it actually chokes them. Then let's talk about chronic illness and navigating medical system. That can be a big struggle, I tell you. There are some people that would have to fight for diagnosis, years of being dismissed, years of being told, oh, it's not possible, it's in your head. Struggle, you fight getting referrals approved. You fight getting the right medication. You have to appeal insurance decisions. Maybe they've decided not to allow your treatment. So you have to fight and appeal the denial of treatment. Then the big struggle of finding doctors who actually listen, who don't make assumptions and actually listen to you. I tell you, this is a full-time job. It's a full-time job that you're not getting paid for. You're actually paying for the privilege of advocating for your own survival. And you're not just paying with money, you're paying with everything else that costs you on a day-to-day basis. Let's talk about chronic illnesses and accessibility at home. There's the shower chairs, there's the guardrails, there are the ramps, there are the hoists, there are the stair lifts, so many things. Adjustable furnitures, organizational systems for medication, meal prep services because you can't cook. These aren't luxuries. No, they're not luxuries at all. They are essentials. But people will look at them and say, oh, cool, you are living the life. And these things cost money. They cost a lot of money that most people with chronic conditions do not have. So what happens? You end up being in pain, exhausted, grieving, isolated, and broke, and fighting bureaucracy. That's your world. You are in pain, you're exhausted, you're grieving, you're isolated, you're broke, and you're fighting bureaucracy day in, day out. And people will then ask you, why are you so tired? Because obviously, they've seen you stay at home all day. But this is it. This is why people with chronic condition look and feel tired all the time. Okay, so I know this have been very, very heavy. But let's talk about some light stuffs now. Things that will get our mind off the heavy duty load we've carried so far. Let's talk about community and connections when it relates to chronic illnesses. Because when you find people who get it, you don't need to explain. You don't have to perform wellness. You don't have to mask anything. You can be real. You're not alone anymore. And there are online communities there now, Facebook groups, Discord server, everywhere. And there are in-person support groups. There are definitely chronic illness creators on social media. So when you find your people, everything shifts for you. And this makes a world of difference because you begin to feel differently about a lot of things. Then there's the advocacy and awareness. I want to tell you that your story matters. So when you share your experience, you educate others, you break stigma, you help someone else feel less alone, you create change. And you're not just surviving chronic illness, you're teaching the world what it actually feels like to live with chronic illness. So there are some things we can still celebrate. That's why we're going to talk about celebrating resilience. So I want you to remember that you're allowed to celebrate the days you get out of bed when it was hard, the times you asked for help because you needed the help, the adjustments you used without shame, the boundaries you set, the no you said when you knew you had to, the joy you find in small moments. Because chronic illness is hard, but you are harder. You're navigating something most people can't imagine, and you're still here. You're still trying, you're still showing up, still finding moments of beauty. And that's not just survival, that is strength. Beautiful strength that should be celebrated. So if you live with chronic illness, I see you. I see the calculations you make every morning, the grief you carry for your old life, the loneliness when friends drift away, the exhaustion of fighting for care, the strength it takes to keep going. I see what you're dealing with and I see that it's real. It's not just in your head, it's not exaggerated, it's not your fault. And you don't owe anyone anything. You don't owe anyone constant positivity. You don't owe them an explanation. You don't owe them enough to minimize your struggles or perform wellness and masking your pain and aches. And I tell you, you are actually allowed to be tired, to grieve, to say no, to ask for help. You're allowed to exist exactly as you are. Chronic illness is much more than symptoms. It's a complete reshaping of life. And you're navigating it with more courage than most people will ever need. And that's deserving of recognition. So well done, you. Now, if this video makes you feel seen, drop a comment and tell me what one silent struggle people don't see when it relates to you and your chronic illness. Share this with someone who needs to feel less alone. Subscribe for weekly validation and practical strategies. And don't forget to download our free resource guide. You're not invisible to me. Your struggle is real and you're not alone in it. I am Ruby. This is InspireAbility, and we are pulling back the curtain on what chronic illness actually looks like. I'll see you next week, but I want to leave you with this. Your struggle is real. Your strength is extraordinary. You're not alone. Thank you for joining me today. Bye for now.